Thank you so much for that. Okay, we're being recorded and live streamed, so you're ready to start.
Great. It's now 6 o'clock. We will go ahead and start the Pleasant View Planning Commission meeting for February 2nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. So we'll go ahead and call to order. We would like to ask Commissioner Cotter if he would mind leading us in a pledge of allegiance, an opening prayer, and reading your expression of thought. Whatever you want. Okay.
According to the agenda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, we sit on.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful this evening for the opportunity to gather as a planning commission. We're grateful for this area that we live in, the beauties that are around us, and we're thankful for the opportunity as commissioners and as a city to plan, to discuss, to train, and to serve. We're thankful, Father, for this great country that we live in, for the freedoms that we enjoy. We're thankful for thee and thy hand in this land. And we pray, Father, as we meet this evening, that we may be guided in those things we say and as we conduct our business. Pray that we may be able to show our love for this area that we live in through our actions tonight. Again, we're thankful for the chance to be here and for the many people who serve within the city and give so much. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next item is declaration of conflicts of interest. I don't think anybody's going to argue about the training session tonight. So
I hope not.
Thank all the vast audience for joining us tonight, but especially all of the commissioners for joining us tonight. Our first item on the agenda is the appointment of Planning Commission Chair and Vice Chair for our year of 2023. The way we've done this in the past is usually open up for nominations. And I've done both where we do a little piece of paper, put in the hat, or we can just vote so we can decide as a group since we're now open as public body. Do we have any nominations of how we would like to proceed for next year?
I'd like to nominate Andy to continue as the commission chair.
And I would second that.
Slow down. I thought you were just going to say somebody else.
No.
You do such a good job, though.
I appreciate that. Other nominations at this time?
I don't even hear crickets.
Come on. You guys are making it. I would be more than happy to take that. Let's see, how do we want to vote? What's the proper procedure for that?
So just voting to have Andy Neff as the chair for 2023.
There's a motion been made to nominate Chairman Neff as the commissioner chair for the following year. Do we have what should we say? Should we just go ahead and do we have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed?
you do a great job.
All right, thank you. I try to keep meetings moving quick anyway, so. We need a vice chairman at this time. Do we have nominations for a vice chair at this time? Myself, I'd be happy to nominate that we have Julie Farr participate again, and then she can be well trained for next year to take over.
And I would second that as well.
Do we have any other nominations to discuss? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote at this time. All in favor of voting Julie Farr as the vice chair for 2023. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guess we should have asked if you would mind doing that.
The first part, I'm happy. The second part about taking over one day, no.
Throw that in. And I want to go back to the corner
It's
seat.
not a binding motion.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the corner seat. Trying to keep this moving along so we can get everybody home for their family. We do have a training session. I reviewed it and it looks great for us tonight. So we'll go ahead and turn time over to staff and have Amy do our training session. We have how many of these we get to do a year? Is it 3 or 5 or
So
that were required?
it's a certain number of hours. And
Oh, drag this
Brandon's
out.
sick. I don't remember for sure.
Put the clock on. I'm sure this has taken a full hour tonight.
Okay. Full hour tonight, yeah. Poor Councilmember Yuri has already seen this presentation.
She gets to count it twice. She gets to count it twice.
He did. The same as this year.
We elected you.
To bring troops. You're late, so you have to.
Whoever's the latest one.
You win.
Okay, so, sorry, it says January because I didn't update it for my city council one, but this is the Open and Public Meetings Act training. This is something that's required, for Utah law. So, just with the city or the city code, the state code, it cites various different things in the Open and Public Meetings Act. Woo, sorry, that's very loud. So public noticing, minutes and recordings, closed meetings, emergency meetings, electronic meetings, transparency, ensuring that the public has access to decision making, and then also annual training requirements. So there's a short video here, and then we can discuss it a little bit more.
How to sound more confident in your writing. 1, remove hedging language and
So what is the Open and Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. We focus on local government, not state requirements. When in doubt, read the law and consult with your legal counsel. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a public body quorum, also known as a simple majority, meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget, imposes or increases taxes or fees, or transfers money from an enterprise fund. These meetings have extra notice and posting requirements and won't be addressed in this video. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. OPMA adds additional requirements too. An emergency meeting may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and a governing body majority approves the meeting. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, collective bargaining, litigation, certain real property transactions, including any form of a water right or water shares with specific restrictions, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information for the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. A closed meeting may be held only if a quorum is present and the meeting was properly noticed. 2/3 of the governing body present at the meeting need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson: 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members present at the meeting. If 3 out of 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short and would need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment, or take a vote, unless it's a vote on a motion to end the closed portion of the meeting and return to an open meeting. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, or several other exceptions, mostly related to state bodies or project entities, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made, which includes date, time, and place of the meeting, names of members present and absent, and names of all others, except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. Regular open and public meetings require 24 hours notice. The public notice includes the meeting agenda, date, time, and place. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Additionally, entities holding regular meetings scheduled in advance over the course of the year need to provide annual notice of the entire year's meeting schedule. The notice must include date, time, and place for each meeting. Notice is posted at the entity's principal office, or if the entity doesn't have a main office, at the building where the meeting will be held, and the Utah Public Notice website. Typically, posting on the Public Notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website, archives.utah.gov. Written minutes and a recording are kept of all open meetings, with few exceptions. Written minutes include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the names of members present and absent, the substance of all matters, names of citizens providing comments, the substance of the comments provided, any information a body member requests be entered into the minutes or recording, and a record by individual member of each vote taken. A body with elected members must record each vote in list format by category for each action taken by a member, including yes votes, no votes, and absent members next to each member's name. A recording must be a complete and unedited record of all open portions of the meeting from beginning to end, and be labeled with the meeting date, time, and place. All or any part of an open meeting may be independently recorded by any person in attendance if the recording does not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Pending minutes means written minutes of an open meeting in draft form subject to change before being approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that the minutes are subject to change until the public body approves them. Approved minutes means written minutes of an open meeting approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Entities must establish and implement procedures for the public body's approval of written minutes. Public meeting pending minutes, approved minutes, and recordings from public records under grandma. Any individual who publicly presents information relating to an item on the public body's meeting agenda must provide a copy of the information for inclusion in the public record. Make pending minutes available to the public within 30 days. Within 3 business days after approving written minutes of an open meeting, make approved minutes and any public materials available at the Utah Public Notice website, the entity's primary office, and the entity's website. Within 3 business days after holding an open meeting, make an audio recording of the open meeting available to the public for listening.
And that's the video that we had on that. I don't know if there's any questions. The Open and Public Meetings Act.
Does the planning commission ever have a reason to go in closed session? I don't, we wouldn't. Yeah, oh, we're not even allowed to. Oh.
So that's more for the city council, but I thought it was a good informational piece, just. So I wasn't thinking about that.
I'll ask the question on that one. When they close the public hearing for city council, I've been here a few times and the public all has to leave. I thought it was usually just the city council, but I noticed when do they determine how much of the staff stays or not stays for something like that?
It really is dependent on the topic. And so if there's staff involvement in a topic at hand, then we ask for their participation.
Okay. I've seen times where there seemed like there was more people than you would have thought the discussion or what the item was.
Yeah, it really,
It's very limited what topics they can even discuss on hand.
and with some of them, just from some of my past experience, like especially with property acquisition and that, after a certain time period, they do open those to the public. So it's not something that's just completely locked away. They never get to hear those negotiations. They can be open to the public in the future.
Like if the security of the police chief, or something like that, or if it's an employee within public works, maybe the public works director. Things like that.
I've just seen different scenarios, so I'm just curious.
Now, there's a question.
You can't do it in a closed session, yeah.
Reaction, yeah, I've seen that.
Which is good governance, frankly, because the public's business should be done in the public eye.
All of the action and information shared within the closed meeting is not recorded. I don't even think you can grandmother this out.
No, you cannot. But in the future, with some of the property and real estate things, so that does become less eventually, but with personnel, character, and competence. it's different. And that, I know they hit on it in the video interviewing elected officials. They used to allow that in closed session, but they no longer do. So again, for the public to have that access. So this is just the definition of a meeting, and just to help you all be familiar. And I thought that they hit it on that pretty well in the meeting, in the video. A convening of a public body with a quorum present to discuss, receive public comment about, or act upon a matter over which the public body has jurisdiction or advisory power. It does not mean a chance social gathering. So if a couple of you run into each other, the grocery store, you don't have to say, "Oh, everyone scatter now." Or meeting of the public body that has both legislative executive responsibilities. But I would caution you, and I know sometimes after a really heated night or, a challenging issue, and there seem to sometimes be discussions that carry out into the parking lot, and that just to be really cautious of that. We shouldn't be having forums and meetings on those topics. So you see it scatter and so other possible meetings, and I know we talked about this a little bit with this group, but virtual communication, obviously like a Zoom meeting can be a meeting, but then also even just digital communication, text messages, and they touched a little bit on grandma, but if you're messaging back and forth with another planning commissioner, or planning commissioner chair, or even with me on an item about some city business, that could be grandma requested. So keep that in mind. Just kind of be sensitive to that. Social media, you know, if there's oh, yes.
Sorry. So if a packet comes through and there's some stuff in there where I'm like, I have no idea what this is saying. And so I were to call a fellow commissioner or to you, you're saying don't do that.
And I'd recommend, no, absolutely do. No, do. I wouldn't recommend calling other commissioners, but you're welcome to call staff. And the reason why is,
Or would I call, who would I call? Would I call Brandon?
yes, Brandon would be your top source, but I'm happy to assist if he's unavailable. And absolutely feel free to call. You're welcome to text me. I think a lot of you have my cell phone number and I don't mind that at all. But I guess it's just kind of, you know, a thoughtful thing that, you know, if you're texting something over and maybe add a little joke in or something with it, and then it's like, had nothing to do with it. I mean, that could be public. So
if I were to like text Brandon and say, can you clarify what this is saying? That could be.
yes, so if the developer that we were working with or whatnot came in and said, I want all of the records of communication on this topic, that could absolutely be provided to them.
If you don't want to share, don't have it written anywhere.
So what does that mean then?
I mean, I can't imagine why I would not want, but like if I pop.
I guess my main thing, I think, you know, any questions that would be asked, I think maintaining professionalism is really paramount. A couple of years ago down in, I think it was Salt Lake County, they had a school district that had a bunch of messages that were grandma requested, and it was really kind of some inappropriate, unprofessional stuff. And it's just really unfortunate, you know, it reflects poorly on you, it reflects poorly on the city. And so just being thoughtful in what, you know, if I'm addressing something to Julie, you know, not being flippant and but instead being very thoughtful in my communication, it won't burn you if you're thoughtful and honest. I don't think that that's an issue at all.
One thing, and one thing to keep in mind, we've always had it's not a requirement, but we try to keep in practice. You know, they'll send out a packet to all of us, an email to all of us. But if you have something, either call or reach out individually to them, and they may say, oh, I didn't think about it. You may say, hey, can I see one of these, or could you clarify that? And they may say, well, if you have that question, and they will send out a good response to everybody, rather than it starts doing a lot of this, and that just creates
a meeting, and
it's almost like a meeting within, you know, away from it, right?
And with your role, it gets pretty tricky because a lot of the items that you deal with are administrative, and so really it shouldn't be based on kind of that dialogue, but rather, you know, it meets the standards and the requirements. And so if there are questions, reach out to staff. But I mean, calling one another, you know, it can be really problematic in a meeting setting. Just because, you know, developer comes in and, oh, well, when I talked with, you know, Commissioner Park about that, it's a legislative body.
About issues that are sent to us.
But with the planning commission, the intent really is that it is before the public and all of your dialogue and discussion. And it's a fairness thing to the developers.
Yes.
And whoever's coming before you, not all developers, homeowners, property owners. Good questions. But I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable reaching out to the staff. We are here to answer your questions. He really does. No, I'm just saying. Let the record reflect. but absolutely feel free to reach out. Just, I think it's just, and I'm really not worried about this group, but just maintaining that professionalism to make sure, you know, if something were to happen, I mean, there may be somebody that comes in that irritates the heck out of you, or they're your neighbor or something, and you're just like, oh, no, not them again or something. You know, I mean, that could really reflect poorly on you and the city. So penalties. So there are penalties, and the good thing is the really harsh penalty really isn't going to apply to you all, because that's for the closed meetings. But for open meetings, any final action taken in a meeting that violates provisions is voidable by a court. And so an action can take place, and if the noticing requirements aren't met, if we don't allow proper public hearing, if that's required, then that could be voided by a court. That doesn't mean that we can't re-go through the process and kind of bring that back, but it can happen. And then the other thing with closed meetings, that is a class meeting here. That's a big deal. And it should be, frankly. Any questions on the penalties? I don't know a lot. So this is the GRAMA, the Government Records Access and Management Act. And so we talked a little bit about this, but again, having access to records that are prepared, maintained, controlled by a government entity. This can be a book, letter, document, paper, map, plan, photograph, film, card, tape, recording, electronic data, or other documentation, regardless of physical form. So there are some exceptions, and they kind of mentioned that a little bit with, the draft minutes, they have to mark those as draft, but also if I'm in the middle of typing a document in my office and somebody comes in and says, I want to grandma request all the people that are writing about chickens. I'm like, well, I'm not done writing yet. They can't, if it's not a finished product, it's really not grandma requestable. But it really can be almost anything in, like I said, emails and text messages discussing city business. I would encourage, if people have come to you with questions as a planning commissioner, you're more than welcome to talk to them, but I would encourage you to have them contact the staff. That really is better for record's sake. If you have some dialogue with them, maybe send that to staff so that we can send it out to the entire commission. You just don't want anything to appear to be like a backdoor deal type of thing. And really anything that can be written out can be grandma requestable. So something to think about. Yes.
With records, is there a certain time period that they are kept and then at some point destroyed or not considered?
So it depends on the type of record. A lot of times 30 years is a pretty good indicator. I know that like with agendas and packets, they're starting to make some of those more permanent. But with transitory communication, I'm going to have to look that up for you. I can't remember offhand.
Yes, city council packets, you can go back 16 when we were incorporated in 16.
Yeah, our recorder keeps most of those, but if it's like an email or a text message, I can't remember. I'm going to look it up for you. I think it might be 2 years, but I don't want to give you a finite number and have to be wrong about it. And honestly, if we're not going to scour all your phones, we just got a grandma request, everybody. But if you mentioned in a meeting, I've talked with so-and-so and we get a request on a specific thing, then, I might call Jeff and say, hey, Jeff, I understand you have some correspondence with this individual. Do you mind providing that? We got a grandma request. So, ethics and conflicts of interest. So I think you all have seen a copy of our conflict of interest form. I don't know if our newbies necessarily have. We'll make sure to get you one if you haven't. But this is just what's in the state code as well. So some of it is definition language, but I'm going to read it. Improperly disclosing or using private, controlled, protected information, or using a position to secure privileges or exemptions. So not saying this could or would happen, but if you go over to Lee's and say, well, I'm a planning commissioner over in Pleasant View, so you should give me a discount over. And usually it's
Does
not.
that work?
That is in the non-specific category. but the point being, it's usually a lot more subtle than that. But if somebody's like, oh, hey, I heard you're on the planning commission and I want to learn more about planning in Pleasant View. Can I take you to lunch and bend your ear a little bit? You just got to be really leery as to what people are looking for. There are specific regulations in state code of accepting gifts. So if, developer came in and said, I bought you all a brand new car, obviously not acceptable. But let's say you worked really hard on a project and somebody brought in, a chocolate bar or a treat or something, a pie.
I didn't bring those in till after the vote.
Okay, that was highly important. But exactly and that's the other thing too. So you gotta find the darn thing and send it back. But I had a developer send me a gift card over Christmas. Somebody we're working with. I'm like, I'm sending this back. This is and it's somewhere buried on my desk. I need to send it back. But I'm like, oh, I don't. And so obviously, I mean, I don't know how much money is on that gift card. I don't know. And we're still actively working with them. And so obviously that's highly inappropriate and that will be sent back as soon as I unpack my desk. But, but you know, just being very thoughtful. I mean, if somebody wants to do something nice, to say thank you and bring in a treat after the planning commission's worked hard on something, that's absolutely appropriate. The gift limit is $50 or less. But, you know, if it's anything that sways you at all, I would not accept it. Even if somebody's like, let me take you out for an ice cream or, you know, and you know that the intentions are not good, please be very wary of that. And so then this is.
Can I ask? Sorry.
Yes, you can. I love the questions, Manya. Bring it on.
So I have a neighbor that has mentioned they're planning on doing something that may affect my property. And that hasn't come up to planning commission yet, but if and when it does, would I then excuse myself?
So there's,
I don't know if it will affect me in any way, but.
Yeah, I think that we get into that maybe. Yeah, that's the central question. And I would guess with the neighboring property, probably not. Unless you're purchasing part of their property or they're purchasing part of your property. For the most part, if a neighbor's just changing some type of use on their property, then it wouldn't be a financial interest, but it would be something to disclose. So, and it doesn't preclude you from voting, but it's important to disclose. If you feel discomfort in voting, you can absolutely abstain. If you feel.
That's kind of what I was wondering, if it's right next door, that I might have more feelings about it.
Right. And that's absolutely appropriate. And so when we, at the first of the meeting, have the declaration of conflicts of interest, you could say, hey, my neighbor's here this evening with this proposal. I, you know, would feel most comfortable not participating or, you know, however you feel best because of that. And then you're welcome to either step out of the room and we can come get you or just not participate in the conversation. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, financially, you're totally outside of it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just saying, oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be anything like that. But if there's a project that then makes your property more valuable. Right.
We've had it a little bit of both ways. We've had commissioners that say, you know, I'm a relative to, you know, or I know this person or they're a neighbor close by to me, and they say, I'd feel more comfortable. You know, we've had some that say, I just want everybody to know that, you know, I have relations with this person, they're in my neighborhood or something, but they sit up here and vote. We've had others that say, because I know this person, I'll feel more comfortable when they go sit out there, or they want to come and speak to the commission as a neighbor, right? So they've done that also. So we've had a little bit of both, as long as, like Sarah says, as long as it's not anything where you're benefiting. If you benefit,
right.
And you may actually even we've had some commissioners that literally leave the room just so they aren't tainted or sway the people up here on the. You know, they don't want to be accused of that, so they actually leave the room and then say, "Let me know."
And that's another one too. If you ever have a question, you can always call us as staff, and we can help you navigate your options. I mean, it's ultimately your choice, but to Councilmember Yuri's point, we do not allow for voting if it does have a financial interest personally. But for otherwise, I mean, if it's kind of this weird, tricky deal, like, hey, how do I navigate this? And then we do have conflict of interest forms and encourage you to fill that out. I mean, even if you wanted to, and I can get those emailed out to everybody in advance. It's just, to me, kind of.
What do you do if it's like, what would you do if your neighbor wanted to like build something and you didn't like that? Could you then recuse yourself and come up and speak?
Yes,
say, I don't want an organ right next door. Like, so you could do that as a commissioner. Oh.
But you could also, you have the right to, she also has the right, if she's not gaining or anything else, you can stay up here and say, just for public notice, I'm next door to these people, but I'm not gaining anything, but you're able to say, I disagree with this because of this. It's a little bit of it depends on how you see yourself fitting in. Would you rather be on that side or this side?
I have a question. So on the $50, is that annually? Is that like
It doesn't
lifelong?
specify in
Is
the
that-
code, which is really interesting.
I work for the federal
Every day.
government and they're very specific, like it's annual and it's, you know, from a specific source and.
The $50,
Yeah.
it just says a non-pecuniary $50. Yeah.
Right, and it does not provide a timeline. No.
I don't think it's a total amount. Is it like if they give you $20 gift cards to your
No, but it's a gift card.
Do not take gift cards or cash. I mean, and right now,
you know what I mean? No.
So
I'm sending mine back. Let the record reflect.
throughout the year, I've had somebody bring me back a shirt from a vacation they went on. And it's a developer I was working with, and I was like, okay, well, thank you.
Weird.
And what did you do? You just dispose it and do it sure.
Yeah, I mean, you get your grade, I mean, they were probably like $10 and whatever, it doesn't, that kind of stuff. And then that same year, I'm sure somebody else probably brought in donuts and said, you guys did a great job, here you go. The office ate donuts, like stuff like that. It's anticipated that's going to happen, but if somebody's giving you a gift card or offering you cash or anything like that, that has a monetary value to it, that's a problem.
Like for instance, I would charge a fireworks, right? I was meeting with the company. You've heard this,
I
right?
have heard this story.
Meeting with the company, went out to look at Weaver High. As I'm reading, my windows are cracked about this. Hey, do you ski? Yeah, we ski. Rose, snowbird passes in my car and goes, and I'm like, no, where you go? So I came straight down here. Anyway, yeah, don't do that.
But yeah, nothing with monetary value. And honestly, even if it's, I mean, $5, if it's something that's intended to sway you in your, I mean, you use your
Discount.
ethics. Yeah. Just be very, very careful.
I think the state put that law in when all the jazz tickets were flooding out. Seriously, I think
Well,
that was
probably
heavily,
so.
they were heavily being played into the committees up there. And so that's when they put it in.
But I think it's just always using, your ethical boundaries. And so, just to read this language at the bottom, a public officer or public employee may not participate in or receive compensation as a result of the transaction between the state agency and a business entity of which the public officer or public employee is an officer, director, agent, employee, or owner of a substantial interest, unless the public officer or public employee has disclosed the public officer or public employee's relationship to the business entity. And so again, I think that's where that disclosure comes into play. I think it's very helpful. And, it may feel awkward to say, oh, you know what, I worked with that person, or I know, but I think it's just so helpful to just put that on the record. It doesn't preclude you from voting, but at least then it just clears it up. And then you don't get all these weird conspiracies of people saying, actually, I found out that this person knows that person. So I'm pretty sure that's why they voted that way. I mean, it just clears you. It's a good thing. So with that, any more questions? I appreciate you all coming tonight for the training. And obviously to elect our new old leadership.
Okay, if there's no more training items for our open, let's move to remarks from commissioner and staff. From the commission, do we have any thoughts, questions, ideas? We'll have another meeting, hopefully nothing else at the end of this month. We're still trying to shoot for one a month, the first Thursday of the month. Any other thoughts, questions? See, this is going to be an easy one.
And so funny enough, in the training, they say you've got to notice your meetings. And so that's exactly what we've done. Notice that first meeting, but we want you all to tentatively hold on your calendars that third, and then the third Thursday in November, hold that on your calendars because we're going to have our holiday party that day.
So question, this is unusual. We were getting blasted with a lot of things, heavy agendas for a while, and not to have much of anything. Do we have a lot coming down the pipeline?
Yes.
And you probably can't disclose any of them until they're finalized, but that we still have quite a bit on the docket.
Yes, yeah, and it's exciting. It's good stuff for the city.
Good.
Can you give us an update of things that went to city council and responses?
Yes. So we had during our last city council meeting, the general plan amendments, and we actually had on the ordinance that we talked about that Commissioner Wilkinson had made some suggestions to, that was approved with that limit that you suggested. And then we also had the general plan amendments on housing approved, and then the general plan amendment on, so it was, I guess, sorry, Commissioner Gosner. We had a general plan amendment for housing for the state's requirements for moderate income and affordable housing. And so, no, there were no modifications made. No. No. So, yeah, we can chat after, but no, it was approved as is per the planning commission's recommendation. And it really is to put some strategies in place to help with the challenge of housing shortages in the state. And then the other one was to make a modification to the general plan. So a while back, we had a proposal come from a developer for modified density up at the Christopherson property. And so there was some change or some language in the general plan that reflected a higher density, but then the map in the general plan reflected a lower density. And so ultimately the language was modified to remove that exception for that area. And they did approve that.
Any other questions from the commission? Staff thoughts?
I just have one more thing, and we love our Councilmember Yuri, and I think you're going to continue to attend the meetings, right? But we're also going to be having some other council members invited in on a rotational basis to kind of come and help get to know you all a little bit better and learn about the planning commission process. So we'll be doing a little bit of a rotation with that this year. They'll just be coming and watching, and some of them might be watching online, but just.
You're watching, you'll get me a phone.
Yeah, just to help them to get a little bit more.
Wouldn't be the same, Sarah, if you don't come. So.
Well, you're not supposed to be here. These are public meetings. Follow your training.
Almost everything. Yeah, listen, I don't think really knows if you just might see the same shots.
So just as a heads up, don't be alarmed if they come. It's just more of an informational and education thing for them. Don't be alarmed.
As a new recruit, can I ask if there's anything that's been tabled that I might need to?
There is one item that was tabled, but it's a pretty significant rework. So it was regarding car washes and possible regulations with the zoning with that, but we're actually doing some research. Appreciate the commission's feedback on that. So that. No, not yet, probably, if that's okay. We've got some good information and some good detail coming on that. Appreciate
I
it.
just have a question. Do we know what grocery store is coming in yet?
We don't.
We don't know the name. Okay. Just curious.
Or not that can be disclosed, maybe.
Yeah, there's some, and I can absolutely disclose this. There's some major complications we're having with UDOT right now. So.
No.
But I see the rush, they put their living foundation there. And across the street.
Yeah, so the Bailey 2700 plat's been recorded, and then obviously the Rush. So over off of 2700, down by 600, we've got commercial district coming in. Yeah.
Isn't that right? You say yes.
Yeah, he does. The Son.
Which restaurants?
So Son, so the local food truck, they're going to actually get a brick and mortar shop. The Bird, it's a chicken sandwich place. Apparently it's delicious. Marco's Pizza, Benchies, Roxbury, and Orange Theory Gym. So once you eat all the yummy treats, you can hit up the gym.
It's like neighbors. It's actually quite good.
Okay, anything else
No,
from the
Thank you
council?
all for
Sarah,
being here.
any?
Yeah. And this is what we need for. Well, if more people come, we'll be out here, some types of kind of week. There's a branch in there.
What time?
You know.
But we-
sometimes-
8 in the morning, is that?
Mayor wanted to, mayor less hours. So, anyway, we have some really good. So.
February 21st.
So the second Tuesday is canceled. In the one of February 11. And then which is in the.
I just don't want to put mayor's vacation on the record. Sorry. No, you're okay.
All right.
You're fine.
So in light of keeping this meeting moving, do we have a motion to adjourn for the night? Oh, we got a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Let's go. Take care.
Make a motion to adjourn.